Hey, it's Evan from LUXBMX here. Today we're going to get into some frequently asked questions. This one's a little bit more in depth and it relates to spoke calculations and what spoke lengths are appropriate for my build or my wheels. So maybe you're building a new wheel set or you need to replace some spokes and you're trying to work out what length spokes you need. It is kind of simple in the way to work it out, but it's sort of getting familiar with what you need to look at to get your calculation correct. There are a number of spoke calculators online that you can use. Some of them may have preset lengths for different hub combinations. They may actually have the hub or rim that you have in them to be able to calculate what length you need. I generally prefer to work off the measurements. So if you can input the dimensions into the calculator, that's always going to be better. You know, you're going to be relying on your measurements as long as you can measure it correctly, which is pretty straightforward. But you're not relying on other data that may not be 100% correct. So now you'll find you will get a wide range of different spoke lengths or spoke calculations for a lot of different wheels. So it's not just a case of getting a spoke for a rear wheel or a spoke for a front wheel. You find that different hub profiles, different rim profiles will give you a different outcome with spoke lengths. So if we're looking at a rim, for instance, you often hear about, or you might have seen, an ERD measurement, which is your effective rim diameter, and that will dictate the kind of the measurement you need for your rim specifically. So that ERD measurement is based on where the nipple sits on the inside of the rim. So the ERD will give you the position essentially of where the nipple will sit, so where the inner wall of the rim, where the nipple will sit on the rim. So and that's your ERD measurement. So you will find, this particular rim's quite shallow. If the rim was a little deeper, you'd have a smaller ERD. I mean, most time manufacturers will have a decent ERD measurement for their rim. So the easiest way to work out your ERD, to take the measurement inside the rim, is actually to get 2 spokes and 2 nipples, and you're going to create an apparatus which is basically a measurement, or allows you to get a measurement between those 2 points. We essentially want to set up 2 spokes on opposing sides, so you need to work out your opposing sides on the rim. So that's a 36 hole rim, you're going to get 18, I guess, 18 holes for the next one. So this apparatus is basically going to give you a bit of a measurement, allow you to measure 2 points, or measure essentially where the spokes and the nipples sit in the rim. I'm using 2 180mm spokes, so I can basically add those 2 points together. So you've got, 180 times 2 is going to be 360, and we need to measure the distance between the heads, or between the J-bend. This is definitely easier with a set of vernier calipers, but you could do it with a tape measure. So with this measurement, I can see on 2 180mm spokes, we've got a 36mm measurement. Now this is from the inside of the J-bend on the spoke itself. These spokes are about 2mm thick, so if we went to half of each of those to get the center of the J-bend, or the center of the head of the spoke, it's going to be about 1 millimeter. So we take 2 millimeters off that, which is going to give us a measurement of 34 millimeters. So adding 360 to 34 millimeters is going to give us an ERD of 394 millimeters. So that's your effective rim diameter on this particular rim. But yeah, it's a pretty straightforward way to kind of get that measurement that you need. With that measurement for your ERD, you can then input that into the calculator. The rest of the measurements, like I said, it's pretty straightforward getting your measurements, and a lot of the spoke calculators that are online that you can find will have little, little diagrams as far as where to measure and what kind of information they need input. But it makes it pretty straightforward once you get that. So yeah, that pretty much is the tricky stuff when you're doing your spoke calculation. I guess you need to sort of think about whether it's going to be a 3-cross build or a 4-cross build, and if you don't quite understand that, it's essentially the amount of times one spoke crosses another spoke before it gets, so its path from the hub shell to the rim. And there's obviously different applications for each of those. So 4-cross wheel is going to be a little bit stronger because it's essentially woven a little bit more, so it has more support. You're going to find that a 4-cross wheel, the spokes won't come loose as much. They've got less chance to vibrate and come loose. Whereas if you went to a radial spoke or pattern, which is essentially a straight spoke with no crossing, you find the spokes can come loose a little bit more. So anywhere in between that's kind of your scale. You obviously will find that a straight radial spoke is going to be a little bit shorter than, say, a spoke for a 4-cross build, so you've got a weight consideration there. So yeah, you find that kind of the sweet spot with most freestyle bikes is kind of a 3-cross. Some of the kids' bikes on the race bikes may go 2, but yeah, for the most part, 3 is a pretty straightforward lacing pattern for all of your builds out there. So if you have any questions in regards to spoke calculations, you're a little bit stuck or you don't have the data that you need, or you're stuck calculating, certainly hit us up. We can help you out as much as we can. More than happy to do that. But that certainly should answer some of the questions that we've had in regards to calculating your spoke lengths. So when it comes to lacing patterns, a little bit more depth in there. There's a couple of other things to consider as well. When you're looking at if you're considering a 3-cross or a 4-cross pattern, you will probably find most 4-cross patterns, even though your flange sizes are different, when it comes to a 4-cross, there's actually less difference when it is crossing 4 times in the length of spokes, because the spoke is coming at more of a right angle to the axle, so its path doesn't deviate too much. If it was there or if it was further in, you find that it's going to be relatively similar in length. So you may find they may not be exactly the same size with a hub like your Profile Elite, but you will find the variance in spoke length isn't as drastic as it was in consideration to a 3-cross or a 2-cross. It's going to be much more drastic. So another thing with lacing patterns, we're talking about 3-cross, 4-cross. You probably don't get it too much these days, but people have gone with twisted lacing patterns, which is essentially one spoke that or the spokes cross over each other, bend and go to a different hole, or go to the opposing hole they would have. It's an aesthetic thing, but structurally it's not a good idea. You're creating a load in the middle of the spoke, so where 2 spokes cross like that, twisting them and bending them, you're obviously creating a weak point in the middle. Yeah, so it's probably, if you're purely for aesthetics at that point, I probably wouldn't suggest it otherwise. So, cool.
Yeah, I can't remember the dude's name now, but he used to come down to Cleveland and he had like a crazy light.
So thanks again for watching. If you have any other questions or inquiries, hit us up in the comments or hit us up on our other channels, so Facebook, Instagram, email, like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.